Brett Dawson from Sellout Crowd here at American Airlines Center in Dallas, where just to my left, the Harlem Globetrotters are warming up for a game here later tonight. And it's fair if you wonder whether the Globetrotters will outscore the Mavericks today. 146 to 111. Dallas romps OKC, a game that was never super competitive. The Thunder clawed to within 4 at one point after trailing huge in the first quarter, but the defense just really wasn't there today for OKC. The 111 points is fine. The offense had some struggles, and we'll get to those in just a second. But really, Mark Daigneault today asked about his team's point of attack defense, which has been good all year and wasn't very good today, said he agrees. It wasn't there today. Couldn't pinpoint exactly why. The juice just wasn't there. And what he said was, you can't overreact to it. This has been a pretty good defensive team all year. You also can't ignore it. You got to learn some things from it. And that's important for the Thunder to get some takeaways from this game. There's some struggles defensively and some things that they need to clean up. These aren't things that have been consistent issues, and they've got to deal with some of those things. The Mavericks, there's a couple of things. Some new players, Daniel Gafford in particular was really impactful. He gives Luka Doncic this extra lob threat, and he gave the Thunder fits. Luka was able to kind of get wherever he wanted, and part of that was when Chet Holmgren would come over to help on Luka, he's kind of playing in an in-between zone. The lob is there, and Luka's also got the floater, so what are you kind of doing? OKC didn't get very many stops, and that stopped it from getting out in transition, and that impacts the offense. Chet Holmgren talked about this after the game, that if they're really struggling offensively, and they couldn't get any points in the paint today, Dallas really packed it in, they've got to get some more stops, get going on the fast break, get some easy points. Really unable to do that at all today. Dallas just dominated in the paint. It's the second straight game we've seen where OKC's been pretty significantly outscored in the paint. Different strategies. Some zone by Utah that Mavericks didn't do a whole lot of that, but it's very clear right now what teams are saying is we are not going to let you beat us around the rim. We're not going to let you drive with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're going to try to take away Chet Holmgren in the paint, and we're going to dare you to shoot. They dared Josh Giddey to shoot. He had a stretch in the third quarter where he just couldn't make anything out of the corner, and a lot of shots were coming from him. Those open shots, Mark Daigneault wants him to continue to take them. He wants him to shoot confidently when he's got those. But what happens when you can't score in the paint and those outside shots aren't falling for guys like Josh Giddey and even to an extent Lou Dort, who Dallas wants to shoot the ball? That's where Chet talked about. You just got to get going defensively. You got to ignite yourself that way. And OKC just didn't do that today. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander talked about it after the game. Just didn't have the juice that they normally have, and Dallas really had it. These new acquisitions, Gafford and PJ Washington, kind of lit a fire under this team. Kyrie Irving, who didn't play the last time these two teams played, was here today and played really well. And it was just one of those nights where everything, or afternoons, I guess, where everything went Dallas's way and nothing was kind of going in OKC's favor. 25 points for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but even he wasn't particularly good. Another afternoon game tomorrow. OKC turns right around, goes back to the Paycom Center, and plays the Sacramento Kings. And I asked a couple of players and Mark Daigneault after the game. This is 3 games that have started pretty early. A 4 o'clock game that the Thunder also lost, but everything that started earlier than that this season, OKC's lost, and lost pretty comfortably at home to Denver, at Detroit, and today. And Chet Holmgren said, I understand why you'd ask. And Shai said he'd like to tell himself there's nothing to these early starts, but he said you can't argue with the facts, and the facts say the Thunder's been really bad in these early tip times. So a chance to rectify that tomorrow. Shai said it'll be a point of emphasis to come out and have a lot of energy. They got to try to get this turned around in a hurry against the Sacramento Kings. This team has the All-Star break coming up, and it looks like a team that could use it. But you got to remember, 3 days off heading into this one. So the lack of energy, a little bit concerning. Not in the big picture, maybe, because OKC hasn't had these problems over the course of the year, and so you kind of have to treat this as an isolated incident. But the defensive strategy that teams are employing, it's not isolated. This idea of packing the paint, making the Thunder beat you in other ways, that's something that we're seeing consistently. OKC's had some struggles with it, had some successes with it. It's something that's going to continue to be, I think, a thing Mark Daigneault has to tinker with and figure out some new ways to attack, because teams are just going to get more and more dramatic at it based on what we've seen the last couple of games. So if the Thunder makes a bunch of outside shots, that opens up the floor a little bit. But I think some of this is going to have to come in transition, and that's a place where they really were lacking today. So a whole lot to take away from this, a whole lot to work on, and not a lot of time to get it adjusted. Another afternoon game again tomorrow afternoon. So we'll see what happens there. We'll have a bunch of coverage of this one at selloutcrowd.com and tomorrow here on my YouTube channel and at the website. So check us out.